Hi, welcome to Truthful Nation. Before we proceed, please give me a thumbs up for video and audio check.
Yes, sir, we can proceed.
Hi, welcome to Truthful Nation. I'm Chef Ayushi, Executive Chef at Truthful Nation Baking Academy. Today, I'll be teaching you eggless whole wheat honey almond cake. So this cake has two elements. One is the sponge and the other is honey almond syrup. So this cake is totally whole wheat cake. Before proceeding on to the recipe and method, I would like to explain the ingredients that we're using and the preferable brand that we're using. So for the recipe, the link is attached in the description box. You can click on the link and open the PDF so that you can relate what I'm speaking. So as it is a whole wheat cake, so the first ingredient is whole wheat flour. That is the normal atta that we use at home. Second is caster sugar. So here I would request you to, for baking, it is preferable that you use caster sugar because caster sugar dissolves easily and it helps in entrapping air. So the proper structure that we get comes from the caster sugar. The third ingredient is honey. So that is the normal honey that you get in the market. Then is the refined oil. So you can use any oil which is odorless and tasteless. Then we have milk. So for baking, we use full cream milk because that gives the best taste and texture. Then we have curd. So here I'm using the market bought curd. In case you do not want to use that, you have curd that you've made at home, you can use that. Just avoid the liquid that is there in the curd. Then we have baking soda and baking powder. So baking soda and baking powder, you can use any brand. The good brands are, you can use Wakefield, that's quite a good brand. Then water, that is a normal room temperature water. Then we have vanilla essence. So vanilla essence, the brand that we're using is Fab and we're using liquid based vanilla essence. Talking about the tin that I'm using, I'll be using 7-inch tin, cheesecake tin. That is basically, that has detachable bottom. In case you do not have that tin, you can easily bake it in any tin. You can bake in the 6-inch tin or whatever ring or tin that you have. So the recipe, suppose you are baking it inside a 6-inch tin, then you can reduce the recipe by 1/8 and then you can bake it. Now talking about the method, so the method is quite easy. First step is preheat your oven. So I've already put my oven for preheating. So preheating the oven, the mode is upper rod, lower rod plus fan. In case you do not have fan, you can preheat it at upper and lower rod. The temperature is 180 degrees. So we'll be preheating first and then we'll be starting with the recipe. So my oven is already preheated. Talking about the ingredients that we're using and the method that we're using. So all the dry ingredients are sieved together. So we'll sieve all our dry ingredients, that is whole wheat flour, sugar, baking powder, baking soda. Here you cannot interchange the ratios of baking powder and baking soda because that are curated in such a way that provides volume to the cake. After doing that, we'll be adding curd, we'll be mixing it, then we'll be gradually adding our remaining ingredients, that is water, milk and oil. After doing that, and we'll be adding vanilla essence also. So vanilla essence is something which you can add to any liquid that is there. So suppose if I talk about this recipe, I can easily add it in my water, I can add it to the milk or even curd. Now after making a smooth batter, I'll be pouring it inside the tin. One thing that we have to remember is before starting, we have to prepare the tin also. So here, this is a cake which does not have much color inside it. I want that my cake gets a little brown color from side. So what I prefer doing in my cakes is I brush it with oil and I dust it with flour. If you need more color, Then grease it with butter. So butter provides more color, and here and the combination with flour even provides more color. Generally, that what we do is we grease it with oil and we use butter paper at the bottom. You can do that also, but this for this specific recipe I needed a little more color. That is why I've greased it with oil and then dusted with flour. Then first thing that I'll be doing is the oven is already preheated. Now I'll grease my tin, I'll keep it aside, and then I'll move on to the method.
Chef, we have one question.
Yeah, sure.
So, Ashima is asking why we are making in both rod as cakes are baked in bottom rod only.
Okay, so we are preheating the oven at upper rod, lower rod plus fan. When I'll be putting my cake inside the oven, I'll be switching it to the lower rod. So preheating is done on upper, lower plus fan, whereas baking is done on the lower rod. Any other questions, Chef?
No, Chef, not us.
Okay. Okay, so the tin that I'm using is this tin. So this is a detachable tin. So it is easy for us to demold. Now, this tin we prefer using it for cheesecakes, because for cheesecakes we need something which does not break the base of the cheesecake. So in case you do not have this, you can easily use a normal 6-inch tin or any tin that you use for normal cakes. So first I'll be greasing it with oil. So I'm greasing it with again refined oil only. Always remember that you do not have to over grease this, because even if you are over greasing, the cake will be a little sticky. So this much quantity of oil is optimum. Now next is I'm dusting with whole wheat flour, because this cake is purely whole wheat. That is why I'll be using whole wheat for dusting. So just spread it evenly. So what the target is that you are putting the flour on sides also. So whatever excess I'll have, I'll just drop it. Chef, can I get a tray? So always remember that we need a specific quantity. It's just a very thin layer of flour that is coated. So excess, just one tap and we'll remove it. Like this. So now I'll be moving on to the method. So first I'll be sieving all the dry ingredients. So we'll be sieving whole wheat flour, caster sugar, baking soda, and baking powder. Now sieving helps in two forms. One is it removes all the impurities, and the second is it helps in air incorporation. Specifically when we are making an eggless cake, it is preferable that you sieve your dry ingredients. To this, I'll be adding curd. Just gently mix it. Now at this stage, I'm not targeting that the curd mixes very properly. I'll stop at this stage and then I'll be adding the rest of the ingredients. So this is water. Then I'll be adding vanilla essence and then milk. So at this stage, first I'll give it a mix and then I'll be adding the rest of the ingredients. You can also mix all the liquid ingredients together and then add gradually. Now I'll be adding oil. And honey. So we'll be following cut and fold method. The batter is supposed to be thick, so it will have quite a lumpy batter. Just ensure that you're mixing it properly and you're getting a homogeneous mixture. Scrape the sides as well. So now as you can see, we have a proper homogeneous mixture. So at times we do get confused at how much do we have to mix. So always remember, we do not have to over mix our batter. Whenever you feel that all the ingredients that you have added are mixed properly, that is the time when we have to stop. Over mixing will lead to gluten formation. This will in turn give a result that our cake will turn hard. So it is not that if you're over mixing or you keep on beating your batter, the cake will be fluffy and light. It is not so. All the ingredients are added, just mix it to get a homogeneous batter and then you will pour it inside the tin.
Chef, I have a question. Why didn't we combine the sugar and oil at first?
You can do that, but see what happened is the method calls for that. In case you want to add oil, you can do that. But what I prefer is specifically for eggless cakes, we sieve the dry ingredients together and then we gradually add the liquid ingredients because the sugar will not dissolve in oil. So that is why we didn't add. Any other questions here?
Not as of now.
Now we'll spread it evenly. So this is a thick batter, so you have to ensure that the batter is spread out evenly. Now I'll tap it. That's it. So now I'll put it for baking at 180 degrees. Now the mode that is there, that is upper rod plus lower rod plus fan. That is the preheating mode. So do not bake it at the same mode. So when you put the tin inside, you will switch it to lower rod. So for cakes, muffins, all the kinds of cakes, muffins, frosted cakes, we bake at lower rod. The time period increases, but the thing that is there is you get a proper soft cake that is soft from top also. So suppose in case you want a cake which has more color, then probably after getting, like, if it is baked approximately till 90%, you can switch to the lower rod or preheating mode for it to get a little color. So for travel cakes, we prefer getting more color. That is why at times we switch it to upper rod to provide color. But baking is always done in the lower rod. Chef. So before proceeding on to the honey syrup, we would like to show you the basically the travel cakes workshop that is coming up this the next weekend. So we have a promo for that. So we'll see the promo first, and then we'll be moving on to the honey almond syrup. So now we'll be moving on to the honey almond syrup. So for that, we'll be needing a saucepan. So the ingredients that we're using is honey. almonds, cream, butter, sugar, and cinnamon powder. So the method is, first I'll be taking butter, I'll be melting it, then I'll be adding sugar and honey till the sugar dissolves. We'll be cooking it. After that, we'll be adding cream, cinnamon, and almonds. So in this recipe, you can alter, like if you want to avoid cinnamon, you can avoid cinnamon. In case you do not want to use this much almonds, so you can avoid that. What I'm doing is I'm using a combination of almonds. So I have used chopped almonds plus whole almonds for a better look. So you can change the dry fruits. Maybe you can use different kinds of dry fruits. You can add cashews, almonds, pistachios. That is something that you can change. Another thing is, what I've done is, because the syrup is quite sweet, so I've balanced out that sweetness with the sponge. Suppose you are just baking the sponge and you're not adding honey syrup to it, increase the level of sugar by 5 to 10 grams so that it balances out. So in case if I consume just the sponge, maybe that is something you find that the sugar level is not optimum. It could be lesser for you. In case you're just making with the honey syrup, then you follow the same recipe, the sugar level will be balanced out. So now I'll be moving on to the method. So first I'll be adding butter. So here I am using salted butter again because of the sugar level. So first I'll be adding butter. We'll just wait for it to melt. So the reason for this is, like, I'm melting butter, then I'm adding sugar and honey, then I'm cooking it. It provides very good flavor, and it provides a little caramelized flavor, which goes very well with this cake. So now, as you can see, the butter is melted. I'll reduce the temperature. Now I'll be adding sugar and honey. So in this recipe, you can replace the caster sugar with the normal sugar that we use at home. So if you are replacing it with the normal sugar, the cooking time might increase because caster sugar dissolves very quickly, whereas the normal sugar takes a little more time.
Kashima is asking how much sugar to add instead of honey.
So in this recipe,
Yes.
so in case you are replacing, so in this recipe, we have 30 grams of honey. So you can replace it with approximately 20 grams of sugar more. So at this stage, we'll be adding the rest of the ingredients. So here I'm using the normal room temperature cream. So when you are adding cream, this will sizzle up a little. I'm adding cinnamon powder and both the almonds that are left. These are whole almonds and then the chopped almonds. So our syrup looks like this. So we have to just cook it for a minute or so. and then we'll be pouring it inside our tin. So now when you are pouring it on the top of the tin, what I do is I bake it for approximately 80 to 90%, and then I pour it on top and then bake it again. So suppose I am already, like, my cake is already inside the oven and it is baked 80 to 90%. Suppose you are baking it and then you want to make the honey syrup and keep it. You can do that. But before pouring, you will have to heat it and then pour, so that it spreads evenly. Apart from that, so how to check whether the honey syrup is ready or not? First thing is, it has a beautiful smell. The smell is really good. So that is how I check. And the other thing is the thickness. So this should be the thickness of the syrup that we are looking for. Is it visible?
The Vaishnavi is asking, are we making something like honey caramel?
It's not, yeah, you can say that, but this is something which is a little different from caramel, because caramel, we add warm cream, we add butter too. Here we are starting with the butter first. Now we'll remove it from heat. Okay, so at this stage, now if you can see, the center is a little jiggly compared to the side. Now at this stage, first thing that I'll be doing is I'll be pressing it a little, so that I have a little bit of flat top. The cake does not have much of a dome, but suppose it does have, then this is a tip that you can follow for all the cakes that you have. So suppose the cake has a dome, as soon as it is out of the oven, you just have to press it to make it flat. Now I'll be pouring my honey syrup. So ensuring that you're covering all the sides. So while spreading, just see that the almonds that are there, the whole almonds that are there, that are spread evenly. Now at this stage, we'll be baking it inside the oven for 5 to 10 minutes at lower rod mode.
So can they replace sugar with jaggery or honey with jaggery, or can they skip the honey?
For the syrup?
Yes, overall for the syrup and for the cake.
Okay, so for the sponge, you can replace the sugar with jaggery powder, approximately same quantity. For the syrup, you can replace it. That is not a problem, because the syrup is something which we are here. The role of sugar is providing sweetness and color. So in case you want to use brown sugar, you can use brown sugar. You want to use jaggery powder, you can use jaggery powder. Obviously, there will be a little difference with the flavor. Any other question, chef?
Not as just.
Okay, so now we'll be moving on to the demolding part. So this is the cake that is already baked. Okay, so whenever, like after 10 minutes, when the cake is baked, you'll be taking out of the oven. Take out of the oven, then you'll be keeping it at room temperature. So do not make this mistake that you directly take it out and keep it inside the fridge or freezer. The syrup that you have prepared will melt when you are taking it out at room temperature. So first, after baking, we'll be keeping it at room temperature for minimum like 15 to 20 minutes. Then we'll be keeping it inside the fridge for the syrup to set. Can I get a knife? So what I'll be doing is, now the advantage of the loose bottom tin is I'll be just pressing it upwards. Suppose you do not have knife, you can simply, you do not have this tin, you can simply loosen the sides first and then take it out. Okay, so we'll be just pressing it upwards. So while taking out, just ensure that the ends are a little loose. So like I have used the oil and flour. In case you do not want to do that, you want to use butter paper, you can easily do that. So in this, majorly the honey syrup is there that sets and that sticks to the pan. So while using knife, just ensure that you are pressing it this much inwards that the sides are loose, because the cake obviously shrinks when it is baked. So now I'll slowly take it out. Now we'll be transferring it to the cake base. So for transferring it, we need something like a frosting so that the cake sticks.
Chef Saad is asking, we have kept it in fridge for how long?
For approximately 15 to 20 minutes minimum. You can keep longer. What you have to see is, you just have to see that the honey syrup that you have poured is set. So I already have a base, so I'll be shifting it from the base to the from the tin base to the normal cake base. So we'll look for a loose end.
Chef Mona is asking, what can be the selling price of this?
Okay, so the selling price basically has many criteria. You can easily sell it for 700 to 800, because this is first of all, this is a whole wheat cake and it has a lot of almonds and it has two components as well. So what I'm doing is, I'm just using my palette knife to give a smooth finish.
Chef Vaishnavi is asking, if she's making the recipe in larger quantities, is there anything she should be careful about?
Okay, so the cake is done. Now I'll be taking questions, so you can post your questions. Coming to Vaishnavi's question, can you repeat the question, Chef?
If she's making it in larger quantities,
Okay.
is there anything she should be careful about?
First thing is, while making in quantities, you just have to multiply the recipe. So you are multiplying it correctly. At times we go wrong with baking powder and baking soda. So if that is not calculated properly, you will have issues with that. Second thing is, while making the syrup. So whenever you are making too much quantity, so there could be a possibility that the sugar that you're putting it for the honey syrup, that is sticking on sides. So as we do for the caramel, when you are making it in bulk, there could be a possibility that you the sugar that is there, that is basically sticking to the sides of the pan. To avoid that, what we do is we brush it with water on sides of the pan, so the sugar does not stick. Otherwise, the cream that you're using should be at room temperature. It should not be cold. Otherwise, the caramel will split. So these are the certain points that you have to remember. Another thing is, make one recipe first, see how much batter you are putting it inside one tin, and then divide, so that you know the exact weight of the cake, and you also know that you can ease like how much sugar syrup you have to put. Because at times when we do it with approximation, the problem that we face is that it is not getting proper height, or you're overfilling it. So always remember, when you're working in bulk, just ensure that you put the exact quantity that you want. So do one recipe trial, see the desired height that you need, how much batter you're putting it, and then you can calculate that way and put it inside the tin that you're using.
Shiv, I have one request. We can you weigh the cake actually? They want to know the total weight of this cake.
Approx. Yeah, I can do that.
Also, they want to see the intersection. So if you can please.
Sure. So this is approximately 843. So generally, what we do is we put the cake base first, stir it, and then weigh. So this will be approximately like 835 to 840 easily. So in case you want to make it for 1 kg, then you can make it in 8 inches. So this is for 7 inches. So this is something between 500 to 500 grams to 1 kg. So suppose if you want to make it in like half kg, you can make it in 6 inch. In case you want to make it for 1 kg, you can make it in 8 inch.
Can they add the almond flour, and can they replace the whole wheat flour with that, like 20% to 30%?
Yeah, you can do that. See, what happens is the texture of the cake is dense. When you are adding a little bit of almond flour more, in that case, the cake will get a little more dense. So to balance out that, you can add a little bit of liquid ingredient more. Preferably water in this case, because almond powder again has a little bit of fat percentage in it. So this is the texture. Do we have more questions, chef?
Uh, is this cake safe for traveling, or can they send it a bit far?
Yeah, they can easily do that because the honey syrup is set. And specifically, just ensure, obviously, when you are serving it in summers, ensure that wherever you are transporting it, it should be a little air conditioned. Maybe like you are selling it or carrying it in an air conditioned vehicle. But for winters, like this cake is something, if I talk about the elements, honey, cinnamon, almonds, and whole wheat. So I preferably love eating whole wheat cakes because this basically reminds me of my childhood days, because when I started baking, I started with whole wheat cakes only, although they were terrible that time, but gradually then I started working on the recipes. So this is safe for traveling. For winters, this is something which you guys will love. Another thing is, just warm the cake a little and then consume. That will give a better flavor. So if you're selling it, inform your clients that they should heat it for, like if they're using microwave, then heat it for 20 to 30 seconds, and then they can consume it.
Chef, one thing more, can you give them an example how they can increase the quantity of baking powder and baking soda, like how they can multiply this?
Okay, so suppose I'll come to the recipe only. So the recipe, if I talk about baking powder, that is half plus 1/4 TSP, and I want to double the recipe. So if I double it, so half multiplied, like half plus half is 1, plus the 1/4 TSP also will be doubled. That is 1/4 plus 1/4 is half. So in total, we'll have 1 plus half TSP of baking powder. For baking soda, it is 1/8 TSP plus a pinch. So whenever we multiply, so 1/8 becomes 1/4, and a pinch doubled will become 1/8. So a pinch of baking powder or baking soda when doubled is 1/8 TSP. So in this case, the baking soda when doubled will be approximately 1/4 plus 1/8 TSP. When you are reducing it, so 1/8 will become a pinch, and for baking powder it will be 1/4 TSP plus 1/4 will be reduced to 1/8.
Okay, chef. They want to know the shelf life of this cake.
So this cake can be easily stored up to a week. Okay, probably more than that, but for if I talk about the season like this, you can store it easily up to a week or so. Store it in an airtight box, avoiding the condensation and temperature shock. So suppose you're storing it inside the freezer and then taking out, then the caramel, the honey syrup that you have made will melt. So we do not have to give temperature shock to the cake. Also, you can bake the cake and then pour the honey syrup. It is not that you have to bake the honey syrup, that is mandatory. You can bake the whole cake and then pour the honey syrup and then keep it inside the fridge. Even that would work. But for better flavor, I prefer baking the cake till 80 to 90% and then pouring the honey syrup and then baking it again. So this is the method that people used to follow early times also. So when they used to prevent, they had very few ingredients and they wanted to provide flavor to their cake. So they used to bake the cake. They used to pour the, like that time rose water syrup was majorly used. So they used to pour the rose water syrup, bake it again. Or they used to take out the cake, pour it and let it sit at room temperature.
Okay, chef.
Anything else?
Not as such.
Okay, so I hope you liked the workshop, you liked, and please do make these cakes. Tag Truthful Nation. You can also tag me. We'll be happy to repost your post. Apart from that, I have my travel cake workshop that is happening next week. So we'll be playing the promo again. You can have a look. The link is also attached in the description box. So whatever it will be taught is mentioned in the link itself. I'll give a little brief description what I'll be teaching. So I'll be teaching 6 travel cakes, out of which 2 travel cakes will be demonstrated in the egg version and the rest 4 will be demonstrated in the eggless version. But for those, like for the egg recipe that I'll be demonstrating, you will also get the eggless recipe. Same with the 4 eggless ones that are there, you will be also provided with the egg recipe. So for all the 6 cakes, you will be having egg plus eggless recipes. Apart from that, the tools, equipments that we'll be using, the list will be provided to you. The vendor list will be provided. All the measurements of the molds that I'll be using will be provided to you. Apart from that, we'll also have a Facebook access. After completing the course, you will get the recording that will be available for lifetime video access. And you will also get an access to the Facebook group that we have. So while making, if you have any doubts or any questions related to that, so you get added on to that group and you can post your queries. So after the course also, you have a team of chefs, like we'll be there available and we'll be answering your queries. So I hope to see you all in my workshop next week. Till then, like keep baking. We'll be coming up with new recipes every weekend. So next weekend most probably Chef Dipanshu would be coming with something great. Also, we'll be launching our Christmas workshop soon. So stay tuned and we'll be posting the details out very quickly. So you can have a look at the promo and then you can click on the link and see whatever I'll be teaching. Take care. Bye.